This morning's hobby enhancement is grape flavored. Time to show off a completely finished, done and dusted Prussian army. I did an unboxing vid for this about 2 years ago and did the infantry corps in the space of a few months after that, and then progress kind of stalled a little bit, mainly because I've got too many projects and too many real life commitments, both of which are very much first world problems. But then I got motivated. We've been playing some games recently, and it got me revved up to get the job done. So all up, we are looking at about 300 or so points using the black powder system of late war Napoleonic era Prussians. This is from the era where they had lost so many in various campaigns, including I think Russia, that they had to raise Landwehr. Let's get a focus on the Landwehr. There's the Landwehr at the back there. Basically conscripts or people who you wouldn't normally think of as soldiers. So you see a few of them got spectacles, and a few of them a bit bashed up, and some older blokes, and we make jokes about their hearing aids or whatever the hell it is you use when you're as a hearing aid back in 1815. So we've got 4 battalions of the musketeers, standard fellows. Let's get them in shot. We're down the front here. I've formed them up in marching column on this side and in line, ready to do a bit of shooting on that side. These are supported by 4 units of Landwehr. Now it's worth noting, I think the each block of these musketeers counts as a battalion, but the Prussians have got a weird formation. So I think when you do like a battalion of the Landwehr, it's actually 2 blocks of the focus right here is about 2 blocks of infantry. So that if I was to flesh out the infantry more, there'd be another 2 blocks of Landwehr per main infantry formation. So you'd be looking at something like 8 blocks of Landwehr to 4 blocks of infantry, of musketeers, which is strange, but I guess it gets you a lot of stuff for a few less points. So I've done the collars and cuffs of the East Prussians, and I've applied the flags that go with East Prussians as well. There's 2 versions of those. There's the yellow ones, and then there's the blue Prussian, East Prussian flags. You can see they've all got matching collars and cuffs. Sean Connery would be very happy. The flags actually make a huge difference, and I'll put some photos, some glam shots of this army in here so you can see them from different angles. Makes all the difference between a good-looking army and a great-looking army. And I've noticed that some of my opponents put 2 flags in a regiment just to look extra spiffy. We also have a small-sized unit of Jaegers. I think this counts as small, so it's not tiny. It's certainly not medium. I'll put those on a smaller basis so we can spread them out more, because they're pretty much always going to be in either skirmish formation or holed up in a building somewhere. Same collar and cuffs, but the green for the Jaegers. I've also done 2 units of the Ulan. Let's see if I can get some better photos of these, but that's 2 blocks of 12. So they're a full-sized unit. They'll quite happily go galloping about and spearing enemy cavalry. They're very good at that. So yeah, I've only used them a few times, and I've mainly used them for having at enemy cavalry to basically fend them off while my cheap infantry does its job. Then we have a smallish unit of dragoons. There we go. And the dragoons actually get a flag. You can't see it from this angle. I'll have to get some more photos. The dragoons are slightly chunkier infantry. What am I saying? Slightly chunkier cavalry. I don't have as many dragoons though, because I ended up using some of them to represent figures from the staff system. I wanted to do up some diorama bases. And then supporting all of that lot, we have 2 batteries of cannon. I tend to field them as foot cannon. I'm hoping that in future I'll be able to move them up on the march during an attack and blat away at point blank range before we send in the troopers. That's the plan. I've seen it done and it was fantastic. I've used these guns a couple of times in defensive battles and they were alright. But I think the Prussians are probably ideally suited for an attack, just because we do get cheap infantry that still has the courage. It's really just understanding their commands that's a bit of a problem for them. So that's all the troopers. Then we move on to the command bases, and I may have misunderstood the Prussian staff system when I first came up with it, but basically I have 1 general and 3 commanding officers, 1 for each of the chunks of infantry and 1 for a cavalry wing. And yeah, that may not be the correct way of doing it. We'll have to figure it out as we go along, but I've got enough either way. But I like a bit of a theme. So over here we have galloping about, smoking his pipe happily, and there's a bloke running up behind him going for his sabre. Make of that what you will. We have this chap who appears to be instructing his men-at-arms there to perhaps graze my horse over here. Then we've got, these are actually Landwehr cavalry or Landwehr command miniatures. But you know, they don't appear to know what they're doing and maybe having a conversation about it. And then fittingly, one of these chaps is the general. I'm not entirely sure whether it's that guy, in which case I'm not sure what he's doing with the little child running around. I don't work in child protection, but I'd be a bit concerned. But I think it's more likely that that's the boss there. It would certainly be more in character with our gaming group. I've used some of the dragoon models for staff officers and for adding some flavour to the bases. One other thing I did do, and I've got a few spare infantry over here, so I can do some large units if I need to. But one thing I did was I used a lot of these models to do casualty markers. So I'd rather not use dice. I've done about 16 or so. Hopefully that's enough. We'll see how we go. But yeah, casualty markers to put next to a unit which has taken a bit of flack. Right, so I need to do a quick note on painting. I've discovered over the years, after having tried various different painting techniques, that I'm basically time poor. And no matter how good I paint a miniature, you can't really see too much of it on the tabletop. I've got some where I lavished huge amounts of attention to detail on them, and nobody notices in the middle of a game. So what I've done with these guys, and it's a method I've been using for a little while now, is I basically try to work out how to get a good overall army appearance on the table so it works as an integrated whole and looks good in the sort of the grand drama of a well decorated table as well as a fully painted army. But I paint it to a standard that I'm happy to stand by if somebody gets in there for a closer look, but is still efficient enough that I can get through the whole thing. Well, I used to do a lot more highlighting and blending and all that sort of stuff, but I realised that I'd rather get an army done one a year to a decent standard and have the whole army on the tabletop than only get through one army every 3 to 4 years. A better standard, not Golden Demon, but still a much better standard. But there's lots of projects I want to do, and life's short. I can't, be taking 3 to 4 years for an army and still expect to get through all the things that I want to do. So these here, they're all block painted. I sprayed the entire army in the grey of the trousers, because that's a large area of it, and some of the horses are that same grey. Then I block painted in the different bits. I even picked out blue from amongst the different webbing on these guys. I didn't do any highlighting or any dry brushing. Even on the cannons I used the grey instead of painting them Prussian blue, because I figure it's a gun carriage, it doesn't need to be blue, and it could be a much more efficient paint scheme that way. And then I used Nuln oil, which is the penultimate liquid talent, and I slopped every single miniature in the stuff, and that picks out enough of the detail that you get the shading, and it's not so dark and gritty that that it buggers up the paint. Let's have a look at this chap, for example. So you can see the detail. There's enough shade, there's enough creases in the trousers, the metal is toned down. It does the job. I actually use a lot of Vallejo paint and a bit of Games Workshop paint. And I tried the Vallejo washes, but they were a bit too gritty for my taste, so I stick to the Games Workshop washes. They do the job quite nicely. It took a while to paint these because there's a lot of them, and I was distracted, but I got the job done. It's probably about 250 to 300 models, all done in the space of 2 years, at the same time knocking off a shed load of other projects. So that's not too bad. I probably could have done it in about 6 to 9 months if I hadn't been doing all the other projects. But I've knocked out another army or two, a fleet, a bunch of terrain at the same time that I've been painting all these chaps. And that's a job that's done. Now I've read the rules twice and had 3 games with them now, and these guys are doing reasonably well. The lower command rating for the Landwehr has been an issue once or twice, but they do like to stab the French. So their form on the tabletop thus far has been appropriate. We'll likely do a narrative campaign in 2025, that's the plan. I think Lou will be in charge of that. Lou works out some lovely scenarios. So these guys are going to have the chance to earn their keep. Now, I do have a few other painting projects to get on with. I've just bought a new army I've got to paint up, and there's some other things I've got to finish off. But you know how it goes, we never stop. So I'm already thinking about the next army. And these guys are pretty efficient. I actually chose the Prussians because the British redcoats were taken. And I thought Prussians were meant to be super soldiers, but that's apparently a bit later on in their history. And I steered away from the Spanish because you have to paint a lot of miniatures, which sounded very intimidating at the time. And apparently they've got some quality control issues. But now I'm thinking I could do a Spanish army, and it would complement my Spanish fleet for Black Seas very nicely. But then I'm also thinking, if my opponents are agreeable to a change in theatre, it would be very interesting to go outside of the usual bounds and maybe do some Ottomans. So I think there'll be another 1 or 2 black powder armies in my future. But for the moment, this lot's done and dusted. I'm going to enjoy them a bit longer. We'll get some more games in, they'll get their money's worth, and that's it. So stay tuned, do hit like, subscribe, tell your fellow gamers. It all helps, get the word out so people get to see this silliness. But for now, it's time to call it a day.